but I don't know that the things that make sense to me and you always really make sense to like the general public. I feel like we
But,
have
like,
kind of a different wavelength that we stay on.
yeah,
And
but, like, let's
then,
be real. We didn't start the podcast about, like, what everybody else wanted. We started the podcast
yeah,
so you and I could, 1, see each other more
yeah,
than once
yeah.
every 3 years,
Okay.
and 2, so we could talk about things that, like, interested us. So whether that
So
means we're
purely selfish reasons is what you're saying. This was not altruistic for any
No,
kind of
we're not, like, I mean,
knowledge we
truly,
can impart on anybody else.
I
This
mean,
is really
yes.
just for
I
our
mean, we
own.
feel that we have knowledge, but at the same time, it was very selfish and that we just thought this would be fun and cool.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's okay to be that kind of selfish. It's not like we're being an ugly kind of selfish.
I think in 2023, I'm okay being several kinds of selfish.
I think eventually you have to figure out how to be selfish.
Yeah. I feel like 2022 has been a lesson year on a lot of different wavelengths, but I know you've gone through kind of the same we'll say like personnel lessons a little bit, or
Yeah.
not the same but similar.
Yeah. If I texted you at one point, I said, if literally you want to text me and tell me something positive, maybe I will match that instead of matching all of your negative.
Yeah. 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 It's been a year.
It has been a year. There's
I
been
mean, it's
but in learning, there's growth. So
oh, absolutely. I am much happier, and I told somebody this last week. I'm much happier even having found out who somebody was the hard way
mhm.
than I would have been in the long run just not knowing.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some people who are like, just don't tell me what I don't want to know, and I'll
Yeah.
be fine forever. We'll just kind of fake it through it and whatever. But I'm much happier when I don't have my blinders on.
Yeah.
You know, it's frustrating getting there, but I do think it's made me stronger
Yeah.
because it's kind of that like F you attitude sort of thing.
Yeah. So one of the things I've always told people that work under me is when you get to that fuck it level, you start to really expand and grow. And
Yeah.
and that's in a whole and it's not meaning like be rude or combative with
No.
people, but it's just like you've reached the level. It's like, I don't care as long as you're being legal and ethical. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care what Bob is doing or Sally is
Mm-hmm.
doing. I'm doing me. This is me. This is who I am. I'm being authentic. And I think, whatever that is for you in that moment, that fuck it moment is where you really start to grow.
Mm-hmm. Well,
And
and that's what's funny is I did a mastermind several years ago, and they asked us what our theme song was. And everybody else was like, oh, if I like a fight song, like if you were a boxer entering the ring, what would your song be? And everybody's like, I would do Eye of the Tiger and like all this crap. And mine is I Don't Fuck With You by Big Sean. Like, and that is my song. If I'm going to a meeting with somebody I know I can't stand and I've got to meet with them anyway, that I can promise you is on the playlist on the way over.
yeah, you have to have like
Because
a
it's
pump it
just
up
my
playlist.
mindset. Like, I don't really care what you think about me because I don't
Right.
fuck with you anyway. Like, and I don't want to. So,
Yeah.
say what you want, do what you want. I'm going to do me either way.
Mine would probably
And
be Killer Queen by Queen.
I could see that.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I feel like that would definitely be me.
I like it. I
Mhm.
like it. Yeah, I think everybody needs that like one kind of song because all of us have had meetings or interactions in this business where we just like get back in the car and you have to like have a decompressing moment. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you have to like and I have them all the time where I don't even start the car yet
Yeah, you
unless it's
just
like summertime in Texas and then the car is
yes.
started before I get in. But you have to have like this moment where I don't know if like the crunchy people call it we realign your chakras or whatever. Like I just have to let my blood pressure come down because there are times when I can feel it pumping in my ears.
Yeah.
And I am so like hyped up and not in the positive way that I just have to like take a moment, realign,
Yeah.
listen to like my song and be like, okay, well, don't fuck with you anyway, so what do I care
Yeah.
how that went? Like, you don't want to work with me, you don't like me, you don't whatever. Okay.
One of the things that when I was in like a goal meeting with when I was in DC, my supervisor, like it was one of those like you guys just clicked. Like from
Mhm.
day one, Bill and I just clicked. Our birthdays are like a day apart, so that probably didn't, it's probably very similar too.
Mhm.
But
Are you a Gemini?
yeah.
You are.
No, yeah. Why? Yeah,
We
there's a
both
lot
are.
of personality in this room if nobody could tell by now.
We both are.
Yeah. We're 8s, we're
Yeah.
Geminis. There's all the
I
things.
mean, like, if both of our moms hadn't been here in a previous episode, like, we would have some questions. Like, a 23andMe might not come back that we're
Right.
separate bloodlines,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, fortunately, we know that our moms and fathers
Yeah.
have not crossed paths.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
That
But
would, I will say, be freaking hilarious, though.
that
If we
if
ever
we were
did a
like distant
23andMe and like,
cousins or something.
yeah, I'd be like, that
Oh.
explains it. That one drop of blood that's
Yeah.
still circulating
Yeah.
is
It won't fucking die.
no, and now you've reproduced
Yeah.
it. I've got it going. It's like it's gonna haunt humanity forever.
So true.
Off topic again.
Yeah.
It's like that Elon Musk meme that's been out where he's like starting a war going
Yeah,
straight down the
yeah.
highway. We just shot right off the
Yeah.
exit ramp.
So true. So one of the things.
So your goals.
Yeah, so my
Let's
goals.
talk about
Goal
your
meetings.
goals.
Bill, Bill Clark. So this was like fairly early in like me in a managerial kind of role, and one of the things was, I worked really closely with him, and there was like 40 some building engineers that I worked with, and let me just tell you,
easygoing bunch.
like they're fun loving, but like, and I always had more guy friends than I did
yeah, for
girlfriends.
sure. I
Like
think that's our
I
personality.
kick it with the guys and like and locker room talk with the best of them to a point. Like you go too far. Like I'm like, whoa, like don't be gross. Like don't be crude. But
Usually I am.
I mean,
I'm
I do take
too
it, but
far
like
sometimes.
yeah, sometimes I do, but it's like, sometimes I'm just like,
Yeah.
like, okay, like let's not be disrespectful.
Yeah, no.
Like,
yeah.
But
I know my audience.
yes.
Yes.
And so it is difficult. Most of these guys were either my age or older,
Mm-hmm.
and they've got, at this point, what was I? 24, 25. And it's corporate America, so I am in DC. I am in 6-inch heels, pencil skirts,
Mhm.
like walking into like a boardroom, talking to them about like training or whatever, customer service, whatever I'm doing in that moment, tenant events. And I know that my personality can be boisterous, and like you can just see it. Like they're all just turning off. Like they're all just
Mhm.
turning off. And Bill comes in, and it's like, it's like they're military. It's like stand at
Yeah,
attention,
yeah.
And it took a while for them to like loosen up to me. And that some of them would come and like complain to the ones that trusted me, like came and like, talked about and complained and whatever. And like I really tried to help a lot of them. But there were some that I just did not. I was like, you should not be here. But I didn't have the power to fire anybody. So I can only make suggestions. Bill was the person that could fire somebody. And there was this one agent we had to go to, or this one, not agent, engineer who we had to go to a fire training. So we went to a fire training facility. And
I thought you meant like training to fire them.
No,
Like,
no.
that could
Like
be awkward.
like a fire training.
Yeah.
Like if the building lit on fire, what do you do? And this one guy, basically were like, they basically were like, you can't force an employee to grab a fire extinguisher and put the trash can fire out. Like you can't force them to, but like you can train them to do that. But like
Mhm.
common sense would say,
Right.
if there is a dumpster fire in your building, you would try and put
Yeah.
it out
If
because
there is an available extinguisher and
it's dangerous.
you're not in any immediate danger doing so. Yes.
And this particular engineer that I had no care for said, well, if I'm not required to do it, why would I? And I was like, I looked at him and I was like, because otherwise you'd be an asshole.
Mhm.
Like, there's people in that building. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not like a 2-story building. It's 30 floors high, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's a danger for everybody. Like, because you should.
Right.
It's not like I'm asking you to put out a
Because
5-alarm
you
fire.
would be a good human.
Yeah, like, you're not putting out a 5-alarm fire.
Right.
You call the fire department and you try and contain the fire. And if
Mhm.
it's a trash can fire, typically you can do that with
Right.
a fire extinguisher. I'm not asking you to get the fire hose out, man.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so Bill, in my review, because I shouldn't have called somebody an asshole in front of everybody or at all in the
Mhm.
in the corporate world, he said to sit there and you
You should have said it much more passive aggressively to fit
should've.
in with the corporate world.
I should have said asshole, but not asshole.
Yeah. You're a less than stellar individual.
Yeah. I don't believe that you're living up to the company's expectations of our standards.
Yeah.
But he told me, and I noticed this after he told me, he said, when you are at the point where you are feeling anxious or you disagree with somebody, but in that moment you should not react, that you should put your fingers together and make like a triangle,
Mhm.
and you focus all of your energy on that until you feel the pulse. And that is like a huge coaching tip that a lot of like all-star athletes get, and major CEOs, because they sit in tons of
Mhm.
meetings where they can't call someone an asshole when they want to call them an asshole.
Mhm.
But all it does is you can still take in information, but your mind is focusing on the pulse.
I think my particular issue is I don't always feel compelled to call them an asshole, but my face is telling you I think
Oh,
you're a
yeah.
major asshole. Like
My
my face, I would have
Hides
to
nothing.
do this and like do this, like look down the whole time.
Well, that's what I would do.
Because if my face came up for any reason and somebody was saying something like that, it's not a verbal issue, it's a my face issue,
Yeah.
which I don't think in corporate America you could fire me for my face because it's just my face.
No, you
It's
can't.
not like I'm meaning to, it's like an involuntary muscle spasm
Yeah.
of the eyebrows
sure.
come down and the what the fuck look
Yeah.
comes up like,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know?
it totally happens. But I feel like
I would need to
it's-
wear like a ski mask to
I
work.
definitely looked down. Like, I definitely stared at my fingers and I was like, feel the pulse, feel the pulse, feel the pulse. But if nothing, I mean, because my face hides nothing. I mean, it hides nothing.
Mhm.
And so I'm with you on that. But it's an interesting tip. So even if you can't fix your face, at least you're focusing on something other than the words that you're trying to keep your foot out of your mouth in that moment. So at least there's that.
Yeah.
But
So note to anybody who ever has a meeting with me, if I'm like this during the meeting and looking down simultaneously.
Yeah.
I'm not
You've gone
falling
down
asleep. Whatever you're saying is really giving me anxiety.
Yeah, I do not agree.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you your space before I tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay. Well, good tip.
Good tip.
It's a positive takeaway for
Yeah.
today. And we're done.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
When you do your reviews with your agents, how do you structure those?
So that's actually a WTF thing for me right now. Because, when I started real estate at a big box company.
Mhm.
I don't think I ever had 2 conversations one-on-one with my broker or with the top achieving person in the office to where they were like, "Hey, let's sit down and talk about what you need to accomplish, what your goals are, where you were this year, how you felt you did, what can be improved on." I never had that opportunity when I was starting. So it's frustrating for me
Mhm.
when I am reaching out to agents that work with me at Black Label and saying, "Hey, let's figure out a time, get on my schedule. We'll go to lunch, we'll go to coffee, we'll sit down in the office, whatever we need to do that you feel most comfortable with. I just want to have that one-on-one time with you to talk about how you did this year, where you see yourself next year. Is this what you're passionate about? What are you passionate about? How can I help you get there, basically? And so when I'm offering that time as somebody who's also producing and doing a couple other business ventures also right now, if I'm giving you my time and like asking you to take it so we can help you achieve more, and you don't even return the call or the text message or whatever to try to get on my schedule, and or even just say, "Hey, I'm out of town, it's end of the year," whatever, that tells me a lot about how serious you are about your career.
Mhm.
So, I'm somebody as a broker that is known for one of the biggest ways I feel like I can help people feel more confident and competent is by bringing them in on my deals. It's how I see where your strength is, it's how I see how you work, is hands-on. So if you're helping me list a property or I'm kind of handing off one of my buyers that I'm very close with and comfortable with, and I'm giving you half the commission to do the job, I'm not going to be willing to do that for somebody who's not willing to invest an hour to sit down and plan it.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, that's a number one way for me to get bored of investing in your success,
Right.
is if you're not willing to do little things that equal big things. Like, I'll cheer you on for your 4 to 5 deals per year, but you just showed me that you're never gonna be a goal getter. You're
Yeah.
not gonna be the person that proactively, like, searches. So, a lot of times, those are the people that I see fade out really quickly, you
Right.
know? And that's okay. But then I have some, and they're very proactive about getting scheduled, and we talk about personal goals and business goals and how they align together, and like how all the pieces kind of have to line up for you to meet both of those. And a lot of times a business goal is not a dollar,
Mhm.
at least from what I find. It's a motivation and why you want to get there. One of my agents was, his wife was a nurse, and she, for a lot of years, it was her income really supporting and funding the family because real estate is so up and down. So his goal last year was to take over all of the financial burden from her. That's a big why. It
Mhm.
isn't like I just want to make, $100,000 so that I can say I made six figures this year. Like, why are you wanting to do it? Well, she has an autoimmune disorder and her work is getting harder. That increases your why. It increases the lengths that you will go to make that goal happen.
Mhm.
And so, really figuring out what's driving somebody and, you know, where their strengths are too, and knowing somebody on a personal level. So, when you're goal setting, you're not telling them you need to make 50 calls a day. Like,
Yeah.
50 calls a day is bullshit for some personalities.
Yeah.
Because 50 calls a day on the phone for some personalities, like we've talked about, you are not great on the phone. You're
Yeah.
better in person. So 50 calls may not be the most authentic way for you to grow your business.
Sure.
So I try to sit down with everybody on a one-to-one basis, knowing their strengths and what they see their strengths as, what I see their strengths as, where they could use that. And 2023 is going to be a crazy year just because, I've said before that in the last couple years, if you couldn't fish 4 to 6 deals out of the air, then you just weren't showing up at all
Yeah.
because they've been pretty easy to fall into.
Yeah.
In 2023, I think you're going to have to work a lot harder.
Mhm.
And some people are showing that they're not willing to put in work and some are not.
Yeah.
So,
Do you find that they come prepared with ideas and thoughts, and or do you provide a framework like worksheet questions that you expect to be answered and discussed?
I think I have a general list. I think some agents, probably 50%, 40% maybe, know what they want. Others, it's like you have to kinda lead them there, and once you start having the conversation, they figure out what they want. I mean, of course, everybody wants to have a year like they had in 2021 or, 2020 or 20 early 22 next year. It's probably not gonna happen.
Right.
So, if you're coming in, like, you know, with a blank stare, not knowing where to go next. And a lot of agents I feel like are because there's a lot of agents who just got licensed
Mhm.
in the good years. So they really don't know how to put it together for a down market and not a down market, but a normal, like what we're used to pre 2019 market.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I give a framework if they need it, but some come in and they're like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to get here. Here's my vision board that aligns with what I want to do. And here's the steps I'm going to take. And I just need you to hold me accountable.
Right.
I'm going to do this many posts a week. I do have them kind of write their goals out in a letter to themselves. And I keep it in a file in the office for the following year to see, when they read it back to themselves, did you hold yourself accountable? Did you live up to what you told yourself you were going to do? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they fall a little bit short. Sometimes it was something they can help and they can learn from it. Sometimes life just happened
Mhm.
and there was no way around it. Somebody got sick, something happened, whatever it is. But I think that that's a huge tool too.
Yeah.
Like I'm more apt, and it's just the way I'm wired. I'm more accountable to me than anybody else.
Mhm.
And I'm harder on myself when I know that
Mhm.
I told myself I was going to do something and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Like you may never know what my number is, but
Right.
in my head, I know if I hit it or not.
Yeah.
And that'll just,
Eat away at me.
oh, big time. Like, I don't even think I tell my husband
Yeah, I definitely don't.
annually, like, what my goal number is. And, or like unit number, or, whatever people I'm going to help or
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it. But I know what it is. And I'll be the worst to myself if I
Mhm.
don't make it.
Right.
And especially if I don't have a good excuse or reason, not excuse, excuses are bullshit. But like reason, like fell down a flight of stairs, broke my leg, couldn't drive anywhere for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That I could see is reasonable for taking me out of business for a little bit.
Right.
But if it's just like, I just didn't do the things that I knew I needed to be doing to get to where I wanted to go, I have no tolerance for myself on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. That
Even
makes
though
sense.
Larry tells me I need to have more patience with myself, I just don't.
Well, it's hard when it comes to goals.
Yeah.
It's hard.
What is your kind of pattern?
So I don't know that I would say I run mine differently, but I like to think that I run mine differently. So I if you were to put a goal worksheet in front of me and it said anything about SMART goals and units sold and dollar amount, I'm gonna get up and walk right the fuck
Oh,
out.
no, that's not what our sheet
Um,
says.
but how many times was something like that put in
Yeah.
front of you?
Oh, absolutely.
Um, I think something like SMART goals is catchy, right? Like
Mhm.
it's a good maybe beginner, right? So
Yeah.
like what are it's I don't even know what this stands for. Measurable, relatable, trackable. I don't even remember what the S
Mhm.
is. But um
See, and I don't think a lot of my goals are trackable because they're not based on a number.
right. And so I when I when I look at doing reviews, and I don't even like calling them reviews.
No, that feels too
When
corporate to me.
when I call them like strategy sessions.
Mhm.
When I offer to have them or when they want to have one, open at any time, right? Like, yes, absolutely, let's do that. I would have loved for someone to be able to be that person for me in a lot
Right.
of my career to be like, I need a strategy session and then move all their stuff and be
Mhm.
like, yep, let's do it. So, how I do it is inherently the human mind is negative. We see the negative. Everyone says a negative review speaks louder than 5 good reviews, right? So,
Mhm.
people are going to read the negative reviews. I do that. If I'm
Mhm.
going to go buy something on Amazon, I'm going to look at the negative reviews before I read any good reviews
Right.
because I want to know what's wrong with it or even if it was that one order, and I want to know if the company responded.
Mm-hmm.
So I am more apt to focus on the negative, and everybody is. So I always start my sessions talking about gratitude
Mm-hmm.
and the satisfaction with the life that you're in. And it forces your brain to be in a positive place, because when you come into a strategy session, there's a couple of things. People often think that the manager or the person above them is going to come down on them for not
Mm-hmm.
meeting a goal. So again, a negative. Secondly, you might know that you didn't meet a goal, or you're not happy where you are, so you're in a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time where it's talking about your performance, again, if it's not hitting the mark or it's not where you think it is, it's negative. So right there, your brain has 3 things telling it, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. So I always start off not talking about goals or benchmarks or whatever. I start off with, what's your gratitude for this year? And what makes you grateful at home? What makes you happy? When are you feeling the most in your element?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I'm not interested, but I'm trying to change your mindset into a positive place.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to say, for instance, if I were to say, Amber, what brings you gratitude this year? I have noticed on social media myself that you're on your boat more often with your family and stuff like that. And that might be something that you're grateful for. And I would say, why does that make you grateful? And I dive deeper and deeper, because what I want, if it's not blowing your mind, then if it's not something that is so vastly positive that you're only half-assing it for the good things that happen in your life, you're gonna never get to the things that you want in life. And you have to be so mind blown by what you've accomplished this year,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to change your mindset immediately. It is so easy to be in a negative mindset. So that's where I start. And from there, I don't even ask for goals. I'm like, we need to separate a wants and needs.
Right.
And a want is like a dream. And I could say, I want to close $50 million and I want to buy a beach house and I want,
It's the vision board.
yeah, I want
Mhm.
this and I want that. And I've never been a vision board person. Ask anybody. I had the damn Traverse on my vision board for 3 years, and everyone thought I'd make this big fancy post about it when I bought it. No one knew I bought it. I bought the damn thing, and I still left the damn picture up on the vision board because it didn't matter. It was like, cool, check. Because I didn't
Mhm.
need it. I wanted it. And a need is something, it's not even a hunger pain. You
Yeah.
are starving. You cannot live without it. It is an absolute, it is something that, why live without this?
Right.
And if you can't think of that, we can't have the remainder of the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what you need in life. You might say, I have debt. You might say, I have all this debt and I'm upset and I need this much money. But your happiness and your joy should not be tied to money. Your happiness and your joy comes from yourself and the things that you produce in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to say, well, I have all this debt and I need to pay this and I need to pay that, okay, let's break that down a little bit. Do you need this? Do you need that?
Mm-hmm.
And break those things down. And then we go to the wants. And then we go to, how does that play in together to your career, to your moving forward? And I'm there to kind of give you that fist bump to move you forward. But I don't expect you to come in there and not have a damn idea of where you're going and how to
Right.
get there.
I think the problem is that a lot of people in our industry use real estate as a side hustle or a part-time thing. And like,
Easy money.
well, and not even just that, but it isn't the thing that pays for their needs. So it's hard to have the same motivation because you don't really need it. And some
Right.
people just aren't wired that way. Like I'm the type, I'm more likely to reach my goal because you said I couldn't do it Like, I'm a spite achiever,
Mhm.
is I think what it is. Like, it's like, I'll do the thing you told me I couldn't do just as an F you, and then
Mhm.
I'll smile while I do it.
Yeah.
But, like, I think knowing that some people don't have the same drive towards the need aspect makes it a little difficult. Like for me, if I think of like my team right now, there's probably a good half that really don't need the income from real estate or the uh the I guess satisfaction of putting a deal together, and they don't thrive off of that same thing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I think the gratitude part is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's something that I feel like everybody hopefully can figure out what they're grateful for. And if you can't, maybe that's a culture fit and you should go to the big box guy down the street who doesn't really give a crap what you believe anyway. Um, you know, so
I think that's true, but there's still needs for people that even if it's their side hustle, even if it's their busy work,
mhm,
I think that there's still wants and needs. And I think when you start to dig into that person, if they're doing it for fun, they're not a fit for me and you personality wise for our
mhm,
brokerages, right? Like they're
right.
just not.
Yeah, I just want to look
And
at pretty houses. That's
yeah,
all I need to be happy. I'm
like
like,
that's not our
no,
people, right? So
no.
like I would say that even the part-timers, they have a reason and a need that they came to real estate. And I think it doesn't it doesn't translate to big box
Hmm.
necessarily or everybody. But I would say for me and you specifically, even those part-timers or those people that we are like they're never going to be the goal-getters, they have a need and a want list. And it's
Hmm.
figuring out what that need is and then having them take that one step further and pushing them that one step further so they close 7 deals next year instead of 6.
Hmm.
And I think that's our jobs as to make them get to that next level cuz not your and I's next level and like what you and I put ourselves
Right.
out to be is not everybody.
No.
And it takes, different strokes for different folks, right?
Hmm.
There's an agent that I have a lot of respect for at the brokerage who doesn't work weekends. And he's made his business model that way.
Hmm.
And his clients know that. And he has made his business and like there's a part of me that makes my blood be like,
Yeah, it
but
gives me anxiety.
yeah,
Like,
but it works for him and he is vastly successful. And I
hmm.
think that's great. But he has set those boundaries. He has made that happen for himself. And I think that's outstanding
Hmm.
because he's still been able to level up every year because he set that boundary in the beginning. And I think that's working smarter, not harder.
Right.
And people will say, oh, Kate, you work all weekend, you work so hard. But it's not making he's not working any less hard. He's working till 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night
Hmm.
every night.
Yeah.
He's making up for his time somewhere else.
Or he's leveraging out tasks that
Right.
allow him to
Right.
better manage his own personal time.
Right. And so I feel like it's managing who you are and it takes time.
Hmm.
But for goal setting, I think, and this is always a big thing, because you guarantee it December 31st through like January 10th.
Hmm.
You are going to be blown up by I closed this many this year and this many
Hmm.
families served and I won this platinum something or other club,
Yeah.
something, whatever. I could give 2 shits less about your trophy that your brokerage bought you
Yeah.
because the amount of volume you did does not equally translate to the type of agent that you are.
Hmm.
It does not directly translate to how good and competent you are. It does not say that you served every single one of those people to the 100% of your ability.
Right.
It does not. So, and when the internet is flooded by that, we are our own worst enemy because what did you really do? You are not giving anybody an insight into who you are as a person because people want to work with people they like. And it's not necessarily success related as far as how many houses you've closed. It has more to do with they feel confident in your negotiation skills, they feel confident in what you do as a business, and they like you generally as a
Mhm.
person. And I think that makes a really big difference. And I think at the end of the year, we should be talking more about gratitude for what we've accomplished in our personal life and our business life, but not by spouting our numbers, because that is an
And
ugly thing.
I agree and don't. And I'll tell you why, is because similar to a lot of other professions, if I'm looking for an attorney, I'm reading reviews, I'm researching their competency. And, I know a lot of agents who are beautiful people
Mm-hmm.
and they don't produce because they're not competent people in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it does lend itself to credibility in our market. And when we're in an industry that is so overly flooded with incompetent people who come in, they never really do anything but make a mess, but they're lovely people. Like it does set people apart. And I've got plenty of clients personally who did look at, social media and what I've been doing before they made the move to call me,
Sure.
because that's a judgment of competency. Like if they are selling or producing at a certain level, then they must know kind of what they're doing. And I think in our
Sure.
industry, competency is getting lost because we're sometimes focusing on ourselves personally a little too much. Like, hey, I'm the shiny new thing, and this is what there's one agent in town, and she's, I think, a little over the top on that, like lovey-dovey, like let me just hold your hand. And I've done a deal with her. She is not competent. So I think that while it's annoying sometimes to see those posts and things like that, I think that it is something that those of us, and I know you are at my level as far as hard charging and achieving and all of that too. Um, but we've busted our ass for people to trust us enough to get to that volume. So it feels like more authentic for me personally to say, this is what I achieved, like in hard numbers and data, versus like, look at me and how fabulous I am. And I don't
Yeah.
think that's what you're saying at all, that we need to like lead with how great we are. But I don't think it's a negative thing for a lot of people's business to rely on data and stats, because there's always going to be
No.
that group of clients that are data and numbers people
Sure. And
and
I'm not
want to know that.
I think there's two things that you said there that I will, although you disagree to a point, I think that you have to see it from a different perspective. So when you're scrolling, when someone's looking at you and they're
Mhm.
interviewing you and they're scrolling through your social media, they're not looking for your end of year number. They're seeing that you're consistent, and they're seeing
Oh, I've
the,
had people tell me they look at my end of year
but
number.
they do,
Mhm.
but they're seeing how you're posting what's active, what's under contract, what's sold, who's doing it, all those things. They're
Right.
seeing that over and over. When you go to an attorney's website and you're looking for an attorney, do you see a list of their clients and what they've battled against and what they've won?
Sometimes, yes.
If you go to public record,
No, sometimes your attorneys can have like who they've represented and
if
different things,
it's
depending if it's corporate.
if it's
Sometimes
corporate,
they will tell you who they're representing and different
sure.
things.
If it's but
But
on an individual basis, which is essentially what we would be doing, do you see the ins and outs of their business like we do? And they say, I've won X amount of dollars for this client in this suit.
well, I mean, I do ask them for that. I
Do you
don't
see
just
it?
pick a number out of a
But do
phone
you
book
see
for
it
an
on
attorney.
their do you see it on their
On their
public
social media, no.
right. So
Yeah.
if I went to Boeing and I went to their website and they do jet engines and they do
Mhm.
planes and all this other stuff, are they going to tell me that they have all these clients and that this client gave them $50 million to build this new jet engine? Probably not.
Oh, I disagree. I
They
think Boeing is going to rely on the people that are trusting them enough to order from them. I
they
mean, I
will
see
win
press releases
contract
a lot.
when they put
Yeah,
contracts on, but they're
right,
not telling you every single client they have. They're not telling you how much money that
right.
client's giving them. They're not forward facing that
Mhm.
all the time. When it's a big contract because they're bringing something in and they're building something new, 100%. Elon
Right.
Musk does that. That's good PR.
Mhm.
But are they forward facing every single day what money is in and out? Are they forward facing that every day?
No, because I also think it's different. I mean, companies like that have earnings reports that are made pretty public. Different things like that, which is in essence kind of the same thing. It's
Right.
our version of an earnings report. Like if we are a business, which is what each agent I think should
Should
consider themselves to
right.
be, is their own business, then it is kind of like publishing your earnings report and like what you did and that kind of thing. I mean, it's I think a necessary part of our career at a certain point in certain markets, especially that are
Yeah.
oversaturated in different things. You have to differentiate yourself. And in certain demographic markets that you're serving,
Yeah.
they want that data.
But I think
And
the
you will
difference
not get the phone call to get the interview if they haven't seen some kind of data that backs up, yes, they're the best. Because some people at the
right.
end of the day just want to know they're getting the best, whether that's going to cost them double, triple, whatever, they
Right.
want the best.
But I think the difference is the way that you present data,
Hmm.
and data is very different than bragging. And
Right.
I think it's the way that it's presented, and end of year earnings report are so black and white. It is a
Hmm.
list of like contracts that come in, money that goes out. Like that's a budget report, right? That's what
Right.
that they're not fun to look at. And they're not posting on their social media like we made billions and billions of dollars because there's going to
Hmm.
be that low person that's making barely minimum wage
Right.
at the bottom of the totem pole that's going to be like, well, if you're making that much, how come I'm making this much, right? Like
Hmm.
that is where it comes from because the other side is what people see in the public eye is the car you drive. Oh,
Hmm.
they made a ton of money, so they have that. And they're bragging about that. And then it
Hmm.
just becomes this like spiraling effect. So I think when it comes to speaking about who you are, your dollar amount does not equal your competency. Because I've worked with agents who produce high dollars that don't know what they're
No, I
doing.
definitely think it has to be a balance. Like you have to be showing equal parts of who you are and also what you do
Yes.
and your competency level. It's hard to demonstrate competency in real estate if you're not actively working with someone.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like I see agents all the time on social media that they look like they would be competent and then I get a contract from them and I'm like, "You didn't even know how to complete the contract."
Yeah.
Like, so and I'm sure you see it all the time
Yeah.
too. You're like, "Ugh, they put on such a show that they're, like, great at their job," and then, you get things from them, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
So I think it's all facets. Like, we don't get to be an industry that only relies on this or only relies on this.
Right.
So I think everything has to have nuances in how you present it, just like your personality does, and not leading with sex and not leading with,
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. I think it's a balance between both all the time.
Yeah.
So I see, and I don't fault anybody like their little awards or different things they get from their brokerage. I mean, like to me, it may not be like the biggest award, but they're proud of themselves. And I'm like, cool. You
Yeah.
feel like you achieved something. And so when I see them do it like as a source of pride in themselves, like I like it a little more than like work with the person that sold X amount of dollars. That
Right.
comes off cheesy. Like
Right.
you don't want to work with a $2 million producer. You only want, 20 million producers or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I think that even numbers that I would think in my career are small, like, that's a big accomplishment to some people, and I think that that's great, like, and I may be drawn to somebody who is so proud of themselves for accomplishing that. Maybe it's their
Yeah.
first year, maybe they had some struggles or whatever. So, like, I don't fault anybody for that, or not
I think
fault,
it's
but just
I think it's all in how it's done.
yeah.
Because I posted something, I think it was last year, maybe it was the year before. I don't remember. But I went to the balloon store and I just said, blow me up 2 random numbers, right?
Mhm.
And my dumbass and like the camera's reversed. And so like I was gonna make one number and then it made another number, right? So I think I meant to be 35 and in the camera it was 53.
53.
Um, I can't tell you the amount of people that said, happy birthday, you look great for your age. Hmm. Great.
Thanks.
You didn't read the post.
Mhm.
Like,
They
it was
don't.
all about end of year numbers and what that means and everything else. And so many people
Mhm.
commented on my looks, commented on, I look great for my age, happy birthday, like
Mhm.
celebration with champagne bottles. Like, you had you were just
People don't
it was
read
scrolling.
anymore. It's
And
all visual.
yeah. And so I think when you post your end of year, I think it's post it differently because you have
Mhm.
to, when you're looking at yourself as a business and you're looking at yourself, if you truly are looking at yourself as a professional in a business, many businesses are not plastering that out for the public knowledge.
Right.
They are not. And yes, we're in a competitive market, but so is every other corporate business. The hotels are.
But different.
Same but different.
Yeah, but
But
like Coke versus Pepsi. People aren't drinking Coke because their marketing campaign is light years ahead of Pepsi. Pepsi is not everybody's flavor, neither is Coke, so they choose the one that they like the best.
exactly.
You know?
Someone might hire you because they like your personality better than they like me.
Right.
We're
Or they
tech
might hire me because they like my number better than that one. You know,
so
there's no one reason that people are funneling towards a person. You know, I mean,
right. I'm just saying when people are posting, I think when people, especially these end of year numbers, they're not talking about what we should be talking about. It should
right.
not be about um I'm so great, look at me. I'm the shiznit. Like, you need to
Mhm.
come work with me. It should be more about my business grew 50% more than it did last year.
Mhm.
And I think there's a level of class that gets missed. And
I think that's with anything.
it can be, but I think
How you
that's
present
part of
yourself
being
across the
better.
board can be, I mean, it I think that class is something that's just missing anyway.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like like my message, if I had a message about posting in your numbers, would be don't be not classy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, be a classy individual. It's okay to post who
Mhm.
you are and what you did for the year, but then don't also post like your like, you know, vintage Corvette and, and all of this other stuff. If it's something that you're bragging about, if it's something that's
Mhm.
like, I've worked years for this, then that's a whole nother thing. But
Mhm.
the level of class that comes out with those
Yeah.
and what comes off to me so fake, it's like when, you listen to the Academy Awards and they're like, I want to first thank Jesus and then my
Mhm.
family and then my clients for
Yeah.
believing in me and coming back to me. Like, like, ooh, like talk about gives you the icks. Like,
I love that
like,
face.
like that's not
Yeah.
meaningful. Like you
Right.
are saying the Academy Award speech that we are all supposed to say
Mhm.
to like, that's not true gratitude.
Yeah.
So like rounding back to like what I said before, like if someone comes back to me and says like those are their gratitudes, like I'm like, no, like you need to leave and come back. Like
Mhm.
we need to let's put a pin in it. Like you need to go think and then come
Mhm.
back because that's not realistic. I am grateful for every client that appreciates me and comes back to me year after year and sends me referrals. I will forever be grateful and appreciate them. for who they are and what they've done for my business. But I am not the one that's going to like make that seem like not authentic. And
Mhm.
I think that there's just a loss. We get, because we write property descriptions that are fluffy all day.
Mhm.
I think that some of that gets lost in what we're trying to communicate at the end
I
of the
think
year.
also you and I are a little different because we're around it so much that
Yeah,
we see things through kind of more of a jaded lens,
true.
right?
Very
So
true.
your average person doesn't have 900 people on their, say, Facebook feed making the same post. They
True.
may have 3 or 4 realtors that they are personal friends with or whatever that show up. I think we see it so much and it's amplified so much
Yeah,
because of the positions that we're in.
that's true.
And, I mean, if you look at my feed on like Facebook, one, I don't go on Facebook too much because it's noisy. I feel
It is
like
noisy.
it is too much mental noise about, oh, my dog this, or, I ate this for dinner. And it's just too much. People fighting over nonsense. But if you look at my feed, I can promise you in 2 scrolls, 90% of them will be agents.
Well, I can tell you,
And
I made a big switch. So I don't accept people as friends that I don't know and you aren't legit my friend.
mhm.
So like there's been a couple of people that have tried to friend request me recently.
My list would be super small because I only
Yeah.
consider like 8 to 10 people my friends.
I do not
I have a
like
ton of acquaintances,
yeah,
but
if I've done a deal with you,
mhm.
I'm not and you send me a friend request, I'm not going to accept it. I'm not going to deny it, but I'm not going
Mhm.
to accept it.
You're
Um
gonna passive
I'm
aggressively
gonna just leave
basically
that.
deny it.
Yeah, I'm just
I'm just
gonna.
gonna ice you. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna deny you. I'm just gonna
you're just
cool
in that.
down over
You're in
here.
that like 100
I'll
person
pretend I didn't
list.
see it if I run into you in
Yeah.
public.
Well, and here's the thing: when I log on to Facebook, I'm on my business side most of the
Yeah.
time, and I will say that Meta made a big change recently that I really did appreciate. Where it is, I'm seeing more of the businesses I'm following
Right.
as
And I do
opposed
see that now
And
too.
I appreciate that because that's really when I'm logging onto Facebook as far as my business, like I want to
Mhm.
be connecting with the businesses and that, following them and commenting on their stuff and, like creating that relationship. I don't want to necessarily see all the other stuff. And
Mhm.
it's really, really rare that I'm on the personal side of my Facebook. And I don't need every realtor to be my friend on Facebook. Follow
Mhm.
my business page and I can have the same respect for you and follow your business page because that's where I'm posting most of the time anyway. So
Mhm.
if you really want to stalk me, that's where to be. Or, find me on Instagram or whatever. But like, that my personal page is not it,
Mhm.
my friend.
See, and I'm a big fan of just the unfollow.
Yeah.
Like, I especially I may hate your guts, to be honest, but I refuse to just unfriend you.
Yeah.
I will unfollow you so you will never show up on my stuff,
Yeah.
but I won't unfriend you.
See, I don't unfriend people, but
And
I
if
just don't
if I have to
accept
get to
you.
that point, I will just flat ass block you
Yeah.
from like ever
I,
existing in my whole world. But no, I think that it's sometimes important for us to understand that our perspective and what we see is just different
that's true.
because we're so in it.
Yeah.
But like your average person isn't perceiving even like our posts, you know, for our own business pages, we're like, "Oh god, how's this going to come across?" But you have to understand most of our clients are not seeing 30 other versions of that.
Yeah.
So, I think that's just, and that's a hard thing to learn
Yeah.
is that your perception of things is different than someone else's.
Well, and what I appreciate that you and I do the same um, is I do, and I can't say that I haven't done it because I have, but you evolve. Um, but you and I do this very much the same is I don't post my client picture at the title
Never.
company.
Never.
I will post a picture of the house.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't do that for a multitude of my personal opinion. Like people do it and like I don't judge them for that. I don't do it for a multitude of reasons. One, I don't think it's a good look. Two, not everybody wants their picture on social
No,
media.
not every sale is a happy one.
No,
Like, sometimes
no.
it's out of necessity for divorce, death, I mean, lost a job, all kinds of things, like,
Yeah.
it just I don't like it.
Even the super happy ones though, I just
Yeah.
feel like
If they ask me to, if my client
it's
asks me to take a
right.
picture, then I will happily do it
And I
for
text
them,
it to them.
but I don't post it unless
No.
they ask me, "Are you gonna post this?" And then I will.
Right.
If you are requesting I do so or,
Right.
whatever, but no. I think that you're taking what should be like a super important moment for them and you're making it about yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And I
don't
that's why I don't like it. And that's why I appreciate and it's not that you can't tell the story of the client. You still can tell the
Right.
story of the client, but like we just talked about, people aren't reading the posts anyway.
Yeah.
So, I just find it to be I appreciate that we're very similar in the
Mhm.
way that you and I do things um for that part of it. I
Mhm.
just think that it's a different way of doing things and my goal after, I would say the downfall of like whatever, uh, 2022 with
The
all the
dumpster fire that was
yeah,
2022.
yeah. And, then we're like in the recovery
Mhm.
zone. We're figuring it out, right? Um, is my goal for myself personally, one of the things that I have is like to get back on my shit. Because I was, I every Friday I used to post a video about something, whether it be
Mhm.
a buyer or a seller tip or whatever. And it was like I have a majority of my clients come to me because of my social media. A lot of my clients do because they see that I'm giving them resources and
Consistency.
I'm teaching like
Right.
without them feeling the pressure of talking to an agent or talking to a lender. I'm
Mhm.
giving them information about the market, about what's a buyer's agent and a seller and how to stage and what to do
Mhm.
and playlists to put in your house. Even if it's stuff that's fun like that,
Yeah.
people attach to that. And
Right. You're a resource.
yes,
You're
and
not just asking them for something. You're providing them something without ever asking.
that's how I've always wanted to
Right.
run my business is being the resource for them.
Mhm.
And even that's a lot of times why clients will call me back is because they know they can always call me to ask me
Absolutely.
a question and be the resource for them. And it's never like, oh, I'm so sorry I'm bothering you. Like one of my friends just emailed me, her mom got a contract from like an LLC. It's like a one pager. And at the bottom it says page 2 of 2. So I'm like, well, where's page 1 of 2?
Mhm.
And it's just a Word doc. There's nothing about title commitment survey, like, there's no protections on there.
Yeah.
So, I texted her and I said, "I'll look more into it, but my initial thought is don't sign that.
Mhm.
Let me write it on a formal contract," and I'm not charging them anything for that. I'm like, "Let me give you the information you
Right.
need to protect your mom." And that's it's a resource thing. It's like, "Let me walk you through this
Mhm.
contract so y'all can fill it out, so you can sign this, and she's protected at the end of the day." Because that's what you do. So, I feel like one of my goals is to get back on the horse because I definitely fell off because I was also focusing so much on like getting the team, doing the
Mhm.
blueprint that you and I talked about, like doing all of those things and trying to get everybody on board and trying to make everybody so happy and trying to make everybody mesh and be family friendly,
It's
loving.
exhausting.
And like kind of when it all fizzled out, I was like, oh, I can go back to just being me. Like I
Yeah.
can go back to being like okay with like, at 8 o'clock, if that means I
Mhm.
turn my computer off, that means I turn my
Mhm.
computer off. Like I'm not working every night until 2, 3 in the morning, making yet another marketing thing, yet making another marketing plan.
Right.
Like I give myself that grace. And
Mhm.
now that I wasn't giving myself, I
Mhm.
was working myself to death. And for at some level to the unappreciation of others.
Absolutely, to a lot of levels.
And so I feel like there are people that would tell me that I've made poor business decisions. And I could probably say, everyone makes poor business decisions. It's about failing forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand what that means. And I expect to trip, I
Mhm.
expect to fall flat on my face.
Mhm.
But do I get up and how fast did I get up? And that to me is as I reflect and try and think of goals, because the only one I have right now is to get back on my social media game harder, is to really be present in what I have going and appreciate everything that I have
Mhm.
going on right now, because I really have created something so solid. Like, there are systems there are things in place. Now it's just making it all flow and
Mhm.
happen. And sometimes you need that reset in your business, and sometimes I wish that it wasn't so freaking hard for it to
Yeah.
be that mental reset
Yeah.
this past year. But, you know, you and I never do anything gently anyway, so it
No.
makes only sense to get throat punched and been like, "Hey,
Well,
reset."
the thing is, I mean, growth hurts.
Yeah.
And whether you're growing in team size or emotionally or whatever, it's got to hurt.
Yeah.
So you're not going to, like in our business, the most painful things are your failures. So
Yeah.
those are the things that are going to teach you the most. They're the biggest lessons you're going to have, but they're the biggest pain points.
Yeah.
So, like, if you want to be static, and stay in status quo forever and not face any kind of adversity or pain or anybody saying, "Oh, she failed at that," do you.
Yeah.
But you can expect the same thing year after year until eventually that flatlines too.
Yeah.
Or you can take your chances and learn like what you want, what you don't want. And I think that's what 2022 is for me is I've learned so much about how what I thought I wanted is not what I want.
Mhm.
So, forming a brokerage, you think that you want a bigger team and you want all these things. I don't want that at all. Like, I am just fine not being this huge company with all these just herding cats all the time. I focus on my own job and my own career and my own clients much better when I have fewer like headaches going on that are frivolous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with something giving me a headache if it's important.
Right.
But if it is not important and it is not something that is going to serve anybody because some people just don't want a solution,
Right.
right? So I've learned a lot about people that I don't want in my life, types
Mhm.
of people that I just don't have the time or energy for, and just kind of realigning with what my goals are and not being like, okay, well, there's this shiny thing over here that would make it so much easier. Oh,
Yeah.
easy is not part of the process. And
No.
I think you and I are both hard headed enough that like it has to hurt
Yeah.
to make it stick. Like, okay, don't want to go back down that
Yeah.
road. Like, it has to hurt bad. And like,
Yeah.
I'm not the type where most people hurt me. So if I'm hurt and knocked down by something, it is a definite like not going back there.
Yeah.
That person may as well not exist
That bridge is
anymore.
burned.
Yeah, that bridge, you don't have a boat, you can't swim,
Yeah.
and that bridge just burned.
Yeah.
So, there is no going back.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I had to acknowledge this year.
Yeah.
Like, just to be done with it
Yeah.
and not dwell on it for a long time. Like, take the lesson, find the lesson.
Mhm.
Everything that negative that has happened this year, there's been a better lesson in
Yeah.
that's like positive for where I will be next year.
Right.
So, I mean, letting things just build you instead of break you.
Yeah. And I will say, like, my agent, he has grown so much.
Mhm.
And, he's like anybody, there's so much of the personal stuff that I think um, has to be worked on. He never worked in corporate America, so I think that's part of it. Um, but he's growing, and his thirst for knowledge and now he's starting to think forward. Like,
Mhm.
I really like doing this. How do I do more of this? And I think that's a hard part, because, you get to a point where you plateau.
Mhm.
And I think that he got to that point and was like, he was not satisfied. He's like, I know this is not
Yeah.
me. I'm going to level up.
Mhm.
And so I think that's so important. And so I break down the gratitude, I break down needs, I break down wants, and then I get it like after all of that, which is usually an hour-long conversation and it's deep and it's hard. We might have to have a part 2. And
Mhm.
then that's when I break down their numbers. And it's not just like, here was your number, yay.
Mhm.
But it's like, where did it come from? Did you get any referrals from them? Is it in like your specific zip codes, your neighborhoods? Like if you'd closed 10 in one neighborhood, why are you not farming that area
Mhm.
like hard? Because now you can set yourself apart as that neighborhood specialist
Mhm.
and you can get the like deal after deal for that. It's setting yourself apart in that, but you have to like not just look at your whole number, you
Mhm.
have to continually like break
Yeah,
stuff
break it all
down.
down.
So I think when it comes to goal setting, I think the worst thing that you can do is try and sit there and make SMART goals.
Yeah.
Um,
I think when it comes to goal setting, the worst thing I can do personally for others is to assume that they are like me
yeah.
in ambition and drive and grit
And that's
level.
hard for
That's
us.
the hardest part in goal setting
I
for
think
me with people because, like, just understanding not everybody works like me, not everybody
right.
wants to work like me.
Right.
Some people just can't with their life fit in the way I work. And fortunately, Clint's there to pick up my slack at home a lot of the time
Yeah.
because I couldn't do it if I had to be at home all the time.
Right.
So I think that that has been a challenge with business planning for me. And it's
Sure.
part of my growth in a leadership role is, like Larry has to kind of come down to my level sometimes and build me up from there is coming down from where I've already seen to
Yeah.
go to where and remember where they are now
Yeah.
and not filter them through what I would do.
Yeah. And I think that part of it is like when they have set themselves up for, I want to do this. For me, it would be not giving them the solution, but empowering them to make the solution for
Mhm.
themselves because it is not my job.
No, give me some ideas on how you're gonna get there
Yeah,
and
it's
let's
not my
talk them out.
job to create it for you.
Right.
My job is to help you strategize to get there yourself. Like
Mhm.
I'm a sounding board, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's also hard for me because my personality is to
You're a
fix it.
rescuer. That's
Yeah.
what Larry calls me all the time. He's like, "You can't rescue everybody."
Yeah.
Like, if you come to me with, like, that kind of problem, I've already written your business plan. We're gonna do this, this, and this, and this. And a lot of times people don't want the solution. They just wanna feel heard as they work it
Right.
out themselves.
Right. So cue for managers and people that are in
Mhm.
supervisory roles to be listeners.
Shut the fuck up
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, just hear them.
Yeah.
But I think when you're going to a goal meeting, come with a plan and
Mhm.
do s- do don't that's the one thing I would not rely on YouTube for because they're just going to tell you to come up with SMART goals and
Mhm.
your why because your why is not like, oh, my kid's at home. Like
Mhm.
that's not necessarily it. So dig deep or else you can't have the pain of growth in my opinion.
I agree. It's gonna hurt. Just know that whatever your goal is, if it's really a goal, it's gonna hurt to get there.
Mhm.
And if it's not going to be painful, the goal is not big enough.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what are you really achieving if it wasn't hard to get there?
Right. And it's not that you can't be satisfied when you get there, but once you get there, you should think, I am so happy that I got here. And how do I get to the next step? And even if that next step is a baby step, how do I
Yeah.
get there?
Well, and knowing that, I heard a lot of people in 2022 tell me over and over, my goal was this year, but then the market changed. So you change your plan,
Mm-hmm.
not the goal. You don't change the end game, you change what you have to do to get there.
Right.
So, like, if you have to reset your planning midway or quarterly or whatever, based on in our industry what the market is doing, then you do that. But your goal needs to stay the same.
Right.
And like, how much more are you going to have to push to get there? It's going to hurt. This
Yeah.
year was painful in what people had to do to finish out this year
Yeah.
and meet their goals, because we set them in 2021 when everything was fabulous and we thought 2.9 interest would last forever. And,
Yeah.
that's not really how it shook out.
Yeah.
So that would be my biggest advice is set your goals with something that you are dead set on achieving or like busting your ass trying. And when situations change the plan.
Yeah. And mine would definitely be remember that we are inherently negative and you have to blow your mind with gratitude before you can even start to set goals.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I thrive on that. You sucked at this year. Get it together.
You can still have that, but you
Yeah.
still have to reflect and appreciate
Yeah.
how far you've come.
Yeah, I do agree with that because I don't do that enough. And then I look back and I'm like, holy crap, from, a 5-year span, I've done this, and this that I didn't think that I could do while also being a relatively good mom and, a decent wife, I
Well,
guess.
you'll miss life if you don't sit back and appreciate what you have and how far you've come
Mhm.
and reflect on what you've grown in. So
Yeah.
you'll miss a big part of life if you do that.
God, this one went a little deeper.
Told you it was going to get deep.
Oh my God.
Warned you.
I'm like itchy. This is like a
Larry
conversational
would be
hug.
so proud.
I know. Look, Larry, I told you I've been growing. Like, do you see this? Do
Yeah,
you
but
see it?
I didn't make you cry, so I feel like I was a win.
No, he always makes me cry.
Well, it's his voice.
No, it's like he always phrases things as a question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, how does it make you feel? It's like a therapist. It is.
Forces you to be vulnerable.
Ugh. I hate that, but I
should make Larry come on the podcast.
Oh
He
my
could be
God.
everybody's
And I'd be like
therapist.
sobbing. I'd be like snotting out my nose. Like it would be disgusting. No.
Be like, you can't focus on me, Larry.
Yeah.
You have to give us.
I can't take a whole hour on camera of you making me cry.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Solid.
fun times.
Mm-hmm.